tonight. On First at 9 this Tuesday, the 14th of October 2025. Power alerts. No change in electricity tariffs for the next 3 months. UCSL announces rejecting CEB's proposed increase. CEB unions to call off trade union action after positive discussions with the Energy Minister. Diplomatic calls. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya meets Chinese President Xi Jinping. President Xi reiterates China's commitment to advancing cooperation through the Belt and Road Initiative. Nabbed. Ishara Sewandi, the primary female suspect in the murder of Ganemulla Sanjeeva, arrested in Nepal. Sluggish growth. IMF lowers its growth outlook, projecting global expansion at 3.2% this year and 3.1% next year.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
Homelands Expo 2025 Property Investment Forum and Exhibition. Join us on 11th October, Hilton, Colombo, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 0710 111 444.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, you're joining First at 9, brought to you by Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, the Public Utilities Commission has decided not to revise electricity tariffs for the next 3 months. Chairman of the Commission, Professor KPL Chandralal, stated today that although the Ceylon Electricity Board had requested a 6.8% increase in tariffs, the proposal will not be implemented. Accordingly, the existing electricity tariff structure will remain in effect for the next 3 months.
The CEB submitted their proposal on 27th August, and in that proposal they had requested 6.8 tariff increase. So yesterday evening the Commission summoned and the Commission made a unanimous decision. So accordingly this time we decided not to increase the tariff as requested by the CEB. So the present tariff will continue from October to December. So we had to adjust total amount of 25,462 million rupees as the revenue difference as per our tariff methodology. Actually, this revenue difference is pertinent to 3 quarters of the previous time period. Taking the entire accumulated this total figure to 1 quarter is not sensible on 2 grounds. On one hand, that will lead to tariff fluctuation. It's not good for the entire economy. And second, that will negatively affect the bottom line of CEB. Therefore, we decided to take only 1/3 of this accumulated revenue difference to this quarter. So we passed pays 8,487 million rupees to this quarter. So when we pass that amount to this quarter, we need not to increase the tariff. To bring the tariff fluctuations down even in the first quarter of the next year, so we will pass the remaining 2/3. The amount is 16,975 million rupees to the first quarter of the next year. We hope with that decision we will minimize the tariff fluctuations even in the first part of the next year.
The Commission has reduced the electricity tariff by 21.9% in March 2024 and subsequently by another 22.5% July 2024 and again another 20% from there in January this year, that's 2025, and the last tariff revision was a 15% increase from the January tariff of 2025. So the current tariff applicable is a 44.3% reduction from the 2024 January tariff.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa claims that the opposition's efforts prevented the electricity tariff increase from being implemented. Speaking in Kandy, he also warned that the opposition would stage mass protests if the government fails to follow through on its promise to reduce electricity tariffs by 33%.
The SJB's Kandy District Local Government Councillors Forum was held today under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
Recently, the SJB led by me travelled around the country warning of mass protests if electricity tariffs were to be increased. I am happy to say that the Public Utilities Commission, listening to the people's voice, has rejected the proposal to increase tariffs. This is the duty of the opposition. The Executive President on every election second stage pledged to reduce electricity tariffs by 33%. If that reduction isn't granted in the coming weeks, all of us will take to the streets alongside millions of citizens.
දස ලක්ෂ සංඛ්‍යාත පුරවැසියන් සමග මහපාරට බැහැලා අරගල කරනවා කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Trade unions affiliated with the Ceylon Electricity Board announced today that they will suspend their ongoing trade union action following positive discussions with Energy Minister Kumara Jayakodi. Trade union representatives announced that the action will be formally suspended upon receiving written confirmation of the agreement reached with the Energy Minister.
On September 4th, trade unions affiliated with the Ceylon Electricity Board launched a Work to Rule campaign in opposition to the proposed restructuring of the CEB. Although several rounds of discussions were held with representatives of electricity trade unions on this matter, another meeting took place yesterday afternoon with Energy Minister Kumara Jayakodi.
All trade unions affiliated with the Ceylon Electricity Board held discussions with the Minister of Energy yesterday. During the meeting, the Minister addressed each of the 24 demands outlined in our letter individually. He expressed his agreement with all of them, following which we requested that his approval be provided in writing. Once we received this formal confirmation, we have decided to temporarily suspend our trade union action. We expect the written approval to be issued within the day. Upon receiving it, we will extend our full support towards the restructuring of the CEB and its future development initiatives.
In the meantime, the United National Freedom Electrical Employees Association convened a media briefing today after its representatives were removed from yesterday's discussion with the Energy Minister by CEB security personnel.
From the outset, the meeting was entirely focused on the restructuring of the Ceylon Electricity Board. No discussion took place regarding the demands raised by the trade unions. Not even the trade union representatives themselves brought them up. When Saminder, one of the individuals removed from the meeting yesterday, attempted to raise the matter, the Energy Minister refused to allow him to speak. As he approached the Minister to hand over a letter, the Minister's security personnel intervened and blocked him. Subsequently, they forcefully escorted him downstairs.
Meanwhile, CEB trade unions also commented on the matter.
The individual concerned is a suspended employee of the CEB. He had recently formed a trade union but was not among the representatives whose signatures were submitted prior to the meeting. Despite this, he managed to attend the session. While we were engaged in discussions, he suddenly attempted to hand over a letter to the minister, creating a disturbance unrelated to the main agenda. The minister asked him to remain in the room but requested that he refrain from speaking given his suspension. However, he continued to disrupt the proceedings, prompting security officers to escort him out. A tense situation then arose outside the meeting room between the parties involved, though we are unaware of the exact details of what transpired there. I can categorically state that his removal was not requested by any trade union representatives or ministry officials. It appeared that he was pursuing a separate agenda and acted entirely on his own. As far as we know, no assault took place inside the meeting room. Whether any such incident occurred outside, we cannot confirm. President Anura Dissanayake emphasizes the importance of establishing a modern and efficient public service to drive national progress. Speaking at the Ratnapura District Development Committee, he announced that this initiative will be a key priority in the upcoming budget.
The Ratnapura District Development Committee convened today at the Ratnapura District Secretariat, chaired by President Anura Dissanayake. The meeting focused on reviewing the progress of public sector development programs implemented in 2025 in Ratnapura, as well as addressing challenges encountered during their execution.
There
is widespread interest in new construction, yet many buildings have been left half completed in multiple locations and no one is taking responsibility. From now on, our policy is that new buildings will be constructed only for the education and health sectors Other projects will go ahead only when strictly necessary. A cultural centre in Mathura stands half-built and abandoned. There's no one to take responsibility. When asked whether it would take over the building, a private university said the property was of no use to them. The University of Ruhuna likewise declined. The building has been taken over by bats. Government rest houses have similarly suffered. Some have a room set aside for a minister that is only opened when the minister visits. Some reserve a room for the Director General. In reality, both the minister and the DG sleep at the nearest hotel. What is the point of these arrangements? They are a burden. We have requested reports on the rest houses so they can be developed commercially. They should be transferred to the private sector. There is also a presidential residence in Ambilipitia. What has become of that? If there is no purpose of these properties, they should be disposed of. We have a plan to make all government payments through a digital platform from next year. We must end the era of vouchers and checks. A modern public service is needed to move the country forward. There are issues regarding positions in some institutions. The problem the government faces is that there is no one with the capacity to occupy those seats. Yet in the public service, the focus is on who occupies the seats. Building a modern, capable public service is a priority in the budget. Beyond administration and buildings, there are alarming issues with security and law and order in the Ratnapura district. Some public institutions are effectively under the control of criminal gangs. Number plates are being issued for criminal gangs that do not even have vehicles. Criminals have been supplied with multiple passports. Institutions that should prevent crime have in some cases become institutions that enable it. This state of affairs cannot continue. This cycle must be broken.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, who is on an official visit to China, met Chinese President Xi Jinping today. During the meeting, President Xi emphasized China's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka's economic and social development and dedication to fostering collaboration through the Belt and Road Initiative. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya met Chinese President Xi Jinping today at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. President Xi emphasized China's eagerness to deepen traditional ties and expand cooperation in key areas such as modern agriculture, digital and green economies, tourism, and the development of a port-based economy. He also reiterated China's dedication fostering high-quality collaboration through the Belt and Road Initiative. Responding to these comments, Prime Minister Amarasuriya pledged active engagement in advancing the BRI. Prime Minister Amarasuriya also met Chinese Premier Li Qiang to discuss trade, investment and infrastructure collaboration. A key highlight was a proposal to establish a packaging centre in Hambantota under an investment or public-private partnership model. During her visit, the Sri Lankan Prime Minister paid respects at several important Chinese national monuments, including Beijing's Tiananmen Square, the Monument to the People's Heroes, and the Mao Memorial Hall. Additionally, she attended a felicitation ceremony at the Great Hall of the People and participated in a tribute ceremony honouring the People's Heroes.
The World Education Fair 2025's entrance free. Register now.
Welcome back. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatis announces that government will allow the importation of Ponni Samba rice as an alternative to address the prevailing shortage of Kiri Samba. Addressing the cabinet briefing today, the minister stated that imports will be permitted from October 15th to November 15th with a limit of 520 metric tons per importer.
Due to
the shortage of Kiri Samba rice in the country and following reports of it being sold for more than the government's controlled rate, approval has been granted to issue import control licenses for importers to bring in Ponni Samba rice, considered an alternative to Kiri Samba. Imports will be permitted from October 15th to November 15th with a limit of 520 metric tons per importer.
ගෙන්නන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. හැබැයි මීට මාස කීපයකට කලින් තමයි මේ සම්බා වෙනුවට පොන්නි සම්බා ගෙන්නන්න තීරණය කරේ. ඒ අවස්ථාවේදී හාල් ගෙන්නුවා නම් රට තුල කීරි සම්බා මෙච්චර මිල ඉහළ යන්නේ නැහැ. ඔව් ඉතින් වෙළඳ පොලේ අවතින
Based on market demand and national requirements, the need to import rices primarily to manage shortages and stabilize prices.
මහා පරිමාණ මෝල් හිමියන්ගේ ඇති ගැටලුවක් නිසා තමයි මේ විදිහට මේ වැඩිපුර නැහැ කියන කතාව එළියට එන.
According to government statistics, there has been a shortfall in the Kirisamba harvest. This has led to higher prices in the market, exceeding the controlled price.
During the cabinet briefing, questions were also raised regarding the delay in arresting attorney Gunaratna Vaninayaka in connection with the confrontation at the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court.
සමගි ජනබලවේගයේ නීති උපදේශක මේ වනිනායක මහතා ගරු අධිකරණයේ භූමිය තුල රංගනය කරා. පොලිස් නීතිය සුළු මිනිස්සයාට නම් ওই වගේ අවස්ථාවක් තක්ගාලා ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා. දේශපාලන අධිකාරී බලයක් තියෙනකොටද පොලිසිය මේ පිළිබඳව පසුගාමීත්වයක් තියෙන්නේ.
මේ වෙන විට සැකකාර නීතිඥවරයා සම්බන්ධයෙන්
Investigations are ongoing and 3 police teams have been deployed to apprehend the suspect. We expect to take legal action against the lawyer as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, the constable involved in the altercation with the lawyer at the Mount Lavinia Magistrate Court has been transferred from the Mount Lavinia Police Station to the Piliyandala Police Station effective today.
Ishara Sewandi, the primary female suspect in the murder of underworld figure Ganemula Sanjeeva inside the Halsrof Court complex, has been apprehended in Nepal. The arrest was carried out in a joint operation between Sri Lankan and Nepalese police.
Ishara Sewandi, one of the primary suspects behind the murder of notorious underworld figure Sanjeeva Kumara Samararatna, alias Ganemula Sanjeeva, inside the Halsdorp Court complex has been apprehended in Nepal. The suspect was arrested subsequent to a joint operation conducted by the Nepalese security forces and a special police team from Sri Lanka. Following the murder of Ganemula Sanjeev on February 19th this year, the gunman of the incident, Samidhu Dilshan Piyumanga, was arrested by the Special Task Force in the Palavia area of Puttalam on the same day. It was later disclosed that the murder was carried out by members of KL Badar Padbe's faction. Despite multiple efforts to locate the other suspect, Ishara Sewandi, who supplied the shooter with the firearm, the police were unable to locate her. However, fresh information surfaced following the recent arrest of KL Badar Padbe and his gang in Indonesia that Sewandi had fled to Nepal. Acting on this intelligence, Director of the Western Province North Crime Division, Rohan Olugala, and a CID officer travelled discreetly to Nepal to coordinate her capture. Following her arrest, another individual identified as JK, a resident of Jaffna who had allegedly facilitated her escape from Sri Lanka, was also detained. Investigations uncovered that Sewandi hid in Sri Lanka for several days after the murder, later fleeing to India before making her way to Nepal.
සැකකාරිය විශේෂයෙන් අත්තනගල්ල මහේස්ත්‍රාත් අධිකරණය ඒ වගේම කොළඹ මහේස්ත්‍රාත් අධිකරණය මේ අධිකරණ කීපයක විවිධ වූ මනුෂ්‍ය ඝාතන සැලසුම් කරපු කාන්තාවක්.
Four more suspects, including a woman resembling Sewandi, have since been arrested. Among them are Padme's close associates identified as Babani Shanta, Suresh and Nuge Godababi. Police confirmed that Interpol assistance has been sought to expedite their extradition, with the suspects expected to be brought back to Sri Lanka tomorrow on a Sri Lankan Airlines flight.
මෙම සැකකරුවන් 4 දෙනා විශේෂයෙන් ගම්පහ කොළඹ මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය ජාවාරම සහ විවිධ අපරාධ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන සැකකරුවන් බවට මේ වන විට අපි තොරතුරු අනාවරණය කරගෙන සිටිනවා.
Meanwhile, notorious gang member Lalit Kannangara alias Bus Lalit has also been arrested in Dubai. Lalit, a key player in large-scale heroin trafficking and organized crime, faces multiple charges including murder, shootings and extortion. He is known to have maintained close ties with deceased underworld figures Samyan and Urujua. Although a red notice had previously been issued against him, Bus Lalit was once arrested in Dubai and later released. He is implicated in the murders of several businessmen and 15 separate cases of extortion, with numerous business owners in Hangwala, Migora and Kosgama reportedly abandoning their residences due to threats issued by him. The police spokesperson says efforts are underway to extradite the suspect back to Sri Lanka in the near future.
Former State Minister Shashindra Rajapaksa, who was arrested by the Bribery Commission on corruption charges, was granted bail today after 70 days in remand custody. Meanwhile, former Navy Commander Admiral Nishantha Ulugetanna, who was arrested over an alleged connection to an enforced disappearance, was also released on bail. With that, here's more on these and several other legal developments.
Former State Minister Shashendra Rajapaksa was released from remand custody after 70 days today with a foreign travel ban. Rajapaksa is accused of misappropriating public funds by coercing reparations office officials to disburse 8.85 million rupees in compensation for a building situated on government land in Savanagala, which was damaged during the 2022 unrest. Meanwhile, former Navy Commander Admiral Nishantha Udugedanna and former Director of Naval Intelligence Rear Admiral Sarath Mohottige were also released on bail today with foreign travel bans. The duo were arrested in connection with the disappearance of a youth from Pothuhara who was receiving treatment at Kurunagala Hospital after being arrested by the Alawa police. Meanwhile, the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court rejected former Minister Manusha Nanayakara's anticipatory bail request, seeking release in case of arrest by the Bribery Commission over irregularities in sending agricultural workers to Israel during the tenure of the previous government. Nanayakara's counsel informed court that his client would provide a statement to the Bribery Commission tomorrow. In the meantime, the Criminal Investigation Department recorded a statement from former Minister Rohitha Begunawardena in relation to ongoing legal proceedings against the alleged misappropriation of 20 million rupees by awarding the contract to clear granite debris from Hambantota harbour without following proper tender procedure.
50 packages suspected to contain narcotics have been recovered by the Sri Lanka Navy while floating in the seas off the southern coast. The seizure marks the culmination of a 32-day joint operation by the Navy, Air Force and Police. The operation was launched upon information received of an attempt to smuggle a consignment of narcotics into the country via 3 vessels. Navy spokesperson Commander Buddhika Sampath says the recovered parcels are suspected to contain crystal methamphetamine and heroin. The consignment of drugs is thought to belong to trafficker Una Kurue Shanta. Welcome back. The International Monetary Fund now projects global growth at 3.2% this year and 3.1% next year, a cumulative downgrade of 0.2 percentage points compared to the forecast made a year earlier. Launching its Global Financial Stability Report during the ongoing annual general meetings in Washington, D.C., IMF officials stated that external pressures on frontier markets such as Sri Lanka have eased due to a softer US dollar. However, they emphasized the need to continue strengthening economic fundamentals, particularly through improvements in the current account and rebuilding of fiscal buffers.
The big headline today was the launch of the World Economic Outlook at the International Monetary Fund here in Washington, D.C., and the Global Financial Stability Report as the International Monetary Fund warns of risks but resilience among countries across the globe in the face of trade tensions and fragmentation.
Global growth is holding steady despite major policy shifts. The increase in tariffs and its effect has been smaller than expected so far. This is thanks to new trade deals, multiple exemptions, and the private sector's agility in rerouting supply chains. As a result, global growth is now projected at 3.2% this year and 3.1% next year, only a modest downgrade from last October. Fiscal pressures are mounting across many countries and may interact with financial market fragilities to further raise borrowing costs. Risks remain tilted to the downside. The AI surge could trigger a sharp market correction if profit expectations do not materialize. Fiscal pressures are mounting across many countries and may interact with financial market fragilities to further raise borrowing costs and increase rollover risks. And institutional credibility, particularly central bank independence, faces growing political pressures that could de-anchor inflation expectations, stabilize trade relations, reduce uncertainty, and rebuild fiscal space credibly. Monetary policy should remain independent. Policies should aim to restore confidence and predictability, stabilize trade relations, reduce uncertainty, and rebuild fiscal space credibly. Monetary policy should remain independent, yet transparent and tailored, with a key objective to maintain price stability. Over the longer term, economies should invest in innovation, productivity, and multilateral cooperation, empowering private enterprise and favoring horizontal policies like education, infrastructure, and smart regulation over costly sectoral subsidies.
Meanwhile, launching its new Global Financial Stability Report, the IMF said that stretched asset valuations and pressures in core sovereign bond markets are keeping financial stability risks elevated amid heightened economic uncertainty.
In April, markets sold off in response to the tariff announcements, including stocks, longer-term bonds, and the US dollar exchange rate. Since then, markets have recovered strongly, with major advanced economies up about 10 to 15% year to date, and emerging markets about twice as much. Gold has rallied very strongly in response to high policy uncertainty, and so at this juncture, financial conditions are fairly easy across markets and across countries. Now, having said that, we see three vulnerabilities that we really highlight in the GFSR. The first one is that asset prices are stretched, so they are vulnerable to a readjustment in valuations. The second vulnerability is about the interaction with non-bank financial institutions. So if asset prices were to adjust, that could impact non-banks and could potentially lead to redemptions and further pressures on valuations. And then thirdly, longer-term bond yields have risen in a number of countries in recent years, and some of that reflective fiscal concerns around the world in many countries. Our punchline in the Global Financial Stability Report this time is that while financial conditions are easy, the macro-financial risks remain somewhat elevated.
I'm Indivari from Sri Lanka, at the Derana News Channel. I have a question on frontier markets like Sri Lanka, how the IMF is assessing investor confidence in countries like Sri Lanka that are emerging from debt restructuring but still face high borrowing costs and limited market access. What do you perceive as the key financial stability risks in this phase to recovery, and also in terms of stability risks as these countries implement structural reforms?
As you point out, Sri Lanka has been emerging from a debt restructuring and is on the path to growth and restoring confidence. When we look at global markets relative to frontier economies, so those are low-income countries with market access, we do see that financial conditions are fairly easy, so there is liquidity. Countries can access markets, and indeed, we have seen quite a bit of issuance this year that is in line with historical standards.
Sri Lanka's economic performance has improved, so it's good to see. On your question on frontier in general, the softer dollar has lessened external pressure, but now is not the time to be complacent at the same time. So frontier economies need to continue to improve economic fundamentals. That includes both on the current account as well as fiscal buffers rebuilding, as our WEO colleagues have mentioned in the previous session. Importantly, in the GFSR, we also have the chapter this time about strengthening bond market structure so that frontier economies can obtain financing through domestic means rather than over-relying on external funding. And these include improving institutions' quality, improve the predictability of issuance, and further develop debt markets in ways that will be conducive to channel domestic savings towards governmental use. So overall, I think we acknowledge the resilience, that frontier economies and emerging markets have demonstrated through this period. Obviously, there's more work to be done as well.
Well, today was a reminder, while global growth remains resilient, there are significant risks for countries, whether it's emerging economies or frontier markets like Sri Lanka. And the IMF continues to stress the importance of forward-looking policies to mitigate risks and bolster economic stability.
The Colombo Bourse closed in positive territory today as a result of price gains in counters such as Sampath Bank, Carson Cumberbatch and Pan Asian Power. The benchmark ASPI gained 51.49 points to close at 22,372.57, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 18.15 points to end the day at 6,225.52. Market turnover was 5.74 billion rupees. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, with foreign sales worth 58 million rupees. With that, here's a look at today's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.